Welcome to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim. Every Wednesday, Mark and Kim, along with their special guests, will explore thought-provoking topics and ideas that promote creativity, self-help, healing, happiness, and well-being to inspire you on your spiritual journey. Each week, Mark and Kim will discuss different paths to achieving a more spiritual, balanced, happy, and healthy lifestyle. Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience, and all things spiritual. Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. Mark and Kim are tested, certified, and professional spiritual mediums, metaphysical teachers, healers, and spiritual advisors with their own individual spiritual practices in Seattle, Washington, and Los Angeles, California. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
As one door closes, another door opens, rich in possibilities. Hello, inspired listeners. Welcome back to our inspired community. We are so thankful and humble when you join us every Wisdom Wednesday here on Inspired Living with Mark and Kim. Today is Wednesday, May 18th, and I am your co-host, Mark Leanhart, the Intuitive Prospector. Did want to mention a few events that we do have coming up here as we close out May and start to get into the summer months of June, July, and August. I have a Spiritual Borders workshop on June 12th in Spokane, Washington. I have a spiritual hike coming up in July. We're actually going to be heading – it's a very cool hike. It's called Dirty Harry's Ledge. It's a 6-mile hike that's going to take us up into the Cascade Mountains here in Seattle, Washington. And then we're going to have our first joint workshop down in Encino, California with my co-host Kim Thalken. That's going to be our Spiritual Borders workshop. And then I have a Conscious and Wellness Expo on July 23rd in Kent, Washington. So if you want to prospect into the worlds of spirituality, metaphysics, nature, psychic sciences, spiritual healing, or personal mentoring, please look me up at markleanhart.com, or you can just do an internet search for The Intuitive Prospector. I would love to work with you. My co-host, Kim Thalken, a beautiful light worker and good friend, is connecting in live right now from Encino, California. Hello, my dear.
Hello, Mark, and hello to all of our inspired listeners today. As Mark said, we just so appreciate you joining us every week. It's great to be here, and we've got a great show ahead of us this next hour. I've been really excited, actually.
Yeah, I've been listening to Pink Floyd music all morning, so this is going to be a fun show, and I'm looking forward to it for the spiritual aspects of what Ginger has gone through and reading a little bit of her book. But real quick, Kim, how can our listeners interact with us? How can they find us out on social media? And what's our positive affirmation for the month of May?
Yes. Well, first, if you'd like to reach out to me, I'd be happy to hear from you. If you're looking for support on your path in the way of greater understanding of life events or healings, hypnotherapy, or looking to further your spiritual development, I would welcome the chance to work with you. You can find me at lovefirst.info. If you'd like to interact with us on social media, you can find us under Facebook, Inspired Living Radio, Twitter and Instagram under Inspired for Us, Google Plus, Inspired Living with Mark and Kim. And this is where you can send through your questions that we would be happy to bring live to air. You can also catch all of our archives on OMTimes Radio, archives, Podbean, SoundCloud, markleanhart.com, YouTube, and iTunes. And as Mark said, every month we have a new positive affirmation, or I should say inspired affirmation. And for the month of May, it is every day in every way, my life gets better and better.
Love it. And you know what I was doing 36 years ago today, Kim, on May 18th?
What was that, Mark? I'm afraid to ask.
No, I was looking at the date, and 36 years ago today, Mount St. Helens up here in the Pacific Northwest actually exploded. It was one of the biggest volcano eruptions in recorded history. And I was had a memory. I was shoveling ash, like with a snow shovel. I was shoveling 1 to 2 feet of ash that had actually landed on the ground. We had to wear respirators and eye protection. So the date actually reminded me that Mount St. Helens blew 36 years ago today. So crazy.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah. So we're going to get into a little bit of Pink Floyd. Like I said, I was listening to the music this morning, and we want to bring on our special guest for this show, Ginger Gilmour. She is an artist, a humanitarian, and she's the ex-wife of Pink Floyd founder David Gilmour. And she's actually released her new book. It's a beautiful book. It's a big book, lots of storytelling in there, and memories and soul adventures. And the book is Memoirs of the Bright Side of the Moon. And it comes from the soul of Ginger, who is also a sculptor, a spiritualist. She's the mother of 4, and she's just recounting her life's journey as a former model and wife of one of the most famous guitarists in pop music history. It takes her from the age of 22 in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and we'll be talking about that. If she would have actually said no and not actually gone to a Pink Floyd show, if her life would be different. You can find the book at angelscript.com. Again, it's a beautiful book, and it really is a marvelous and heartfelt journey of yearning, love, self-discovery, and triumph. Fans of Pink Floyd will enjoy the all-access pass by reading about the beginnings of the Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, and the iconic performances of The Wall, the tensions between band members, all through the lens of Ginger's experiences. It's really a coming-of-age story for her and a journey of realizing her own life path through her art, her awareness of spirituality, and the teaching she shares about life through 3 decades. So with that, I would like to welcome Ginger Gilmour to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim here on OMTimes Radio.
Welcome, Ginger.
Thank you. I feel like we're friends already. I love the sound of your voice, both of you.
Oh, well, thank you. So, Ginger, the first question I have in regards to Pink Floyd, what is up with the Dark Side of the Moon being compared and being played to all the different movies? I'm a big Star Wars fan, and they just actually corresponded Dark Side of the Moon to the new Star Wars The Force Awakens and says that it flows brilliantly. Do you have any insight of why they do that, from Wizard of the Oz to all the different movies?
That's the first I've ever heard this, but logically speaking, I can see the correlation. For me, I've traveled and became aware of consciousness has gone from darkness to light. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if the Floyd would agree with me, but certainly that album brought forth a lot of that issue. There's an invisible aspect to their music that brings forth the archetype of what we all go through collectively. But when you see them live and listen to the music and go on the journey, there is this feeling of hope somewhere within all the difficulties. Always, there's beauty. It's the one thing that kept me within a rock and roll lifestyle was the fact that each time their music brought forth beauty for the collective. As I said, it's an archetype. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it would harmonize with people. And the same with Star Wars.
Yeah, so you've never heard that before as far as playing the Dark Side of the Moon to Wizard of Oz or different movies as a background. No, okay, that's yeah. Well, there you go. Maybe it's here in America, but it's something that's always talked about, playing that album to different movies and actually turning the actual the movie down and playing Dark Side of the Moon. And the most popular one is Wizard of Oz. And they just adapted it now to The Force Awakens. So I just thought it was fascinating of why this album seems to correspond to storytelling. And I love your perspective as well. And I'm looking forward to reading the book. So let's go back to October 1971, and let's start this beautiful journey and soul adventure that took you to where you are today, living in England and writing this book. Take us back to 1971.
It's a long story. Where do you want me to begin?
We're going to be going to a break here, but we still have 45 minutes. So I'd love to hear the story and the decisions that you made. Because like you said, you weren't even sure you wanted to go to the Pink Floyd wasn't Pink Floyd that we know today. And you weren't even sure you wanted to go. And have you ever gone back and thought about that moment? Because that was a life-changing moment for you.
Well, I have something I want to share with you, but we'll do it after the break, shall we?
Okay. Well, we have
time?
Yeah, we still have about 2 minutes. So maybe just talk about the process of where folks can get the book and have them visit your website so they can learn more about not just your writing, but your beautiful art that you're doing as well.
Well, it's all led me to discover my own creativity, first being inspired by the Floyd, inspired by the love that Dave and I had that carried me through all kinds of different situations that you are confronted with on a rock and roll tour and taking children on tour. And it's there was always this element of beauty that carried us forth, at least for me. I survived to tell the story.
And I like how you say the Floyd versus Pink Floyd. Why the Floyd?
I don't know. When you're close with people, you come up with nicknames, I suppose.
The Floyd. So you grew up in Ann Arbor, and you were working
Well, I didn't grow up in Ann Arbor, but I grew up. My stepdad was in the Coast Guard, a medic, and we traveled everywhere. And I landed in Ann Arbor. You landed in Ann Arbor, okay.
Yes. Small world. I actually served 8 years in the Coast Guard, so small world. Wow. You landed in Ann Arbor, so he was stationed there, and then from that point, that's kind of where the story starts to really open for you, correct?
Well, we were actually in Detroit, Fremont, and I went to college at Michigan State.
Okay, so let's pause right there. You started at Michigan State. When we come back from our break in 2 minutes, we're going to start the storytelling and the beautiful story with Ginger Gilmour. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio.
Live with medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences, to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your host on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Are you seeking answers to life questions? Would you like to connect to a departed loved one? Are you suffering from pain, stress, or anxiety? Kimberly Thalkin is a tested, certified, and professional psychic, spiritual medium, energy healer, hypnotherapist, and the founder of Love First, where life transformations happen. Love First services support, guide, and empower individuals by connecting them to their highest potential to live a healthier, joyful, and meaningful life that's filled with purpose. All services can be done by phone, Skype, or in person in Encino, California. Please visit lovefirst.info. That's LOVEFIRST.info for more information. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Are you wondering what is really going on behind the news? Check it out. Join your hosts Cielito Pascual and Diana Gold Holland on Share on the Air Radio for thought-provoking views behind the news, Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio. You can also find us on shareontheairradio.org. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for. Check it out.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
And welcome back, inspired listeners. Thank you for being with us today and every Wednesday. And today, joining us with our special guest, Ginger Gilmour, as we talk about her life experiences and her book that has recently been released, Memoirs of the Bright Side of the Moon. So, Ginger, before we went to break, you were beginning to tell us about this beautiful story that unfolded the very day that you made the decision to attend a Pink Floyd concert on your college campus. So we would love for you to pick up from there and fill us in on what happened from that point on.
I was inspired to be an actress. I was very creative. I had been studying chemical engineering, but it wasn't fulfilling.
I saw that. I saw, wow, that is completely different than the artist and the sculptors that you do now.
Well, I discovered along my path of awakening that my sole purpose was to bring forth beauty through my art, because I was very prolific as an artist as a child. But in those days in American education, the 3 R's were of greater importance, and I was highly, highly academic as well. So that came in the foreground. Then when I went to Ann Arbor, Michigan, with 2 friends who had a shop called Paraphernalia, a boutique, female, I was very inspired with that. I was quite young, 19. And Morpheus, one of our people who's best friends, came back from England just full of beans about this group called Pink Floyd. And he showed me the Umaguma album, where David's sitting in the front of the album and in the doorway. And I just listened to it. It was very beautiful. And they were... hey, there's a concert here. Ann Arbor would have in October 3 different groups, for 3 different nights, and the Floyd were one of them. And they said, Morpheus said he knew Chris Adamson, and we could have tickets. And I was like, no, I was really going through a phase of questioning the glamour and the materialism of life then. And so I took to wearing blue jeans instead of all this designer clothes, and had very blonde hair that was out there, but I was still modeling, and I was still helping young girls to find their individuality, I thought, through the clothes that we were selling. And I would work with their hair, and we had fashion shows that I'd get them all, which are all described in the book, so that you really feel like you're me in a way by reading the book, which I'm happy about, because as my life went on, let me tell you another part why I wrote this book, is that there was, in my meditation, my guide came to me, and I believe strongly that it was the Holy Spirit representing God, and told me that I needed to write my story of love. It took me a while, a couple years, before I accepted the job, and I didn't know its purpose, except that I had come to a point in my life to listen to that voice as opposed to resisting it. So I set about this story, and it was really important to me to start at that point where, on the human side of things, all dreams had come true for me. I met my Romeo. It was highly romantic. It was just so wonderful. And I left everything, the shops, my cars, my profession. I had been given a lead role in a film, very much like Easy Rider. And I left it. They came chasing after me in the morning, blocked off the road, wanted to kidnap me. You have to stay. And I went, no, I can't. I have to go.
Love is calling.
It was so calling. I found out many, many years later that from an astrologist that our meeting was very powerful from that point of view, and neither of us could have said no to it if you work with the concept of astrology. Mm-hmm. So it all started, and I went off into the rock and roll world of Pink Floyd.
Oh my goodness, I can't imagine. It almost seemed like an instantaneous change in life. But,
yeah.
Yes, it you really had it all, and you still have it. But the looks, the brain, the experiences, the rock and roll lifestyle that you experience. So you talk a little bit about that. What is the rock and roll lifestyle like?
Well, I think every band and every woman within it has a different experience. Certainly the Floyd were much more open to having the family included. They were very much a gestalt at the time. And it's almost like everyone suddenly had a family. But other groups, the women, the mothers, the wives, were not really allowed to come on tour, except for maybe if you did New York City or whatever. That was my personal experience of other bands at the time. I'm sure there are many that are super duper. And mine was. Plus I was an American lady that madly in love with my husband and family life and had to go. And we loved the music, So I was very organized, and the kids often would have their dinners in the limo on the way to the airport because they had to have it at 5:00, So, and then when I, for physical reasons, initially became a vegan, that was a test to do that on the road in those days. It was shocking enough that a person was vegetarian in hotels where they have the non-dairy creamers, and backstage were those dried up sandwiches and everything. But eventually, by the time the Wall came along, we were having, and the roadies were having wonderful food. I mean, we even had a Japanese cook backstage. That was very special. And it came that when I first got there, and David had me sitting on the side of the stage, we would have, I can't even remember what alcoholic beverage I would drink, but David made sure that Scott provided it, that there was a chair there. When he had a guitar break, I'd be sat on his lap and we'd be hugging, and Roger with his hair down would be playing the bass, and suddenly look over and David wasn't on stage, but he got used to it. He'd show up just in time,
Right.
But it was quite something.
Well, you talk in your book about a really what seems to be a very memorable experience for you when you had met the Rolling Stones in Marrakesh.
Well, Mick Jagger. That was,
okay.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, as a young girl, and
Sure.
we're all part of the 60s, and all these groups were like forming our life with their music. You only ever read that in the magazines or documentaries on telly and things. And here we are, we arrive in Marrakesh because they had to do an advert for a genie, a soft drink, in the desert beyond Ouarzazate. And we're walking in to check in, and there's this chap with the long hair walking down the corridor with the Hawaiian shirt and stuff. And I said, David, that looks like Mick Jagger. And he goes, well, it might be because it is Mick Jagger. And we became friends. When you're outside of England, you tend to really want to meet other English people. And David would play guitar on the veranda when we had a spare moment with Mick. And he took us out to dinner, and the band got lost in their taxi because he had his driver driving really fast, and it was almost like he wanted to kidnap David and I. And we went to these discotheques, and Mick was just loved being amongst the crowd and dancing. And it was almost like that movie and The Endless Summer, with Perkins and Tony Perkins and Catherine. I can't remember the names now, but it was her son was going up the street in the bright sunlight and being devoured by all his fans. And David was very shy then, and we sat in the back, and Mick was out there dancing, and he eventually took us back to the hotel.
That's not hard to imagine, Mick Jagger dancing out there.
I know.
So wow, these are some fascinating experiences, Ginger. Now, are you still on friendly terms with David? Do you still have a friendly relationship for the children and engage with one another?
During the time the children were younger, we did engage, but life circumstances at the moment have put us in parallel universes. But I keep praying.
Oh, sure, that happens. All right, well, we will be back in 2 minutes, so everybody stay with us as we talk to Ginger Gilmour and more fascinating stories and the book, Memoirs of the Bright Side of the Moon.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business, and share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business. One planet, 7.3 billion people, only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Mark Lanehart, the intuitive prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Mark's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream. Dare to explore. Dare to live. For more information on Mark's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marklanehart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millisers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back, Inspire listeners. Thank you for being with us today as we welcome and we talk to our special guest, Ginger Gilmour, and her book, Memoirs of the Bright Side of the Moon. So, Ginger, before we went to break, you were talking about all of just the fabulous stories that you've had, experiences as the wife of David Gilmour and being a part of the band, and having the chance to meet some of the other just iconic musicians out there today. But I take it that life has not always been so whimsical and perhaps easy for you. And we would love to hear a little bit about maybe some of the challenges or some of the more difficult times in your life, and what it is that you did to work through those times. Because I think sometimes this is the most important things that our listeners can learn from our guests, is how to take certain tools and apply them in their own lives when needed.
That's a very good question and a very important one. And as I said, that at first God told me to write my story of love. And as I did, I suddenly discovered what the value of sharing my journey would be for other people. Mm-hmm. Because not only did I experience great dreams of glamorous living and everything, but then I had to go through the change of that dream into a crisis, that the dream of love forever and happy family life and all suddenly changed. We had a long time of difficulty being part of the shift of the Floyd, almost their divorce in a way, that imploded onto our lives, and seeing the heartache that David, the frustration he was going through, and with all of the turmoil and stuff was quite challenging. And I was gifted to meet a Sufi teacher called Irina Tweedy. I also met my art teacher, who was Cecil Collins, that was quite a visionary. And between the two of them, I started to wake up and see that there was something beyond that. And by writing this book and being open, not a tell-all, but a sharing, and there was, I think, it would help other people, because there came a point when we separated that I was sitting on the Thames and contemplating suicide. It was just too heartbreaking. And I was watching the leaves going down the river, and I was thinking, what is the future here? How can I go forward? And then I heard the kids' laughter in the garden. They were just home from school. And suddenly I just clicked into automatic pilot. And they were really, at first, my helpers. And there was a healer, Lily Cornford, that I was seeing with mental color therapy, which I eventually learned and practiced with her for 15 years. I was with Cecil as an artist, that awoken what I was born to share with people, and that's beauty. Mm-hmm. Lily said to me when I was really heartbroken, Ginger, you must put a flower on the side of your bed so that the first thing that you see in the morning is a flower, is beauty. Mm-hmm. And that really saved me. But most of all, my soul is supposed to bring that to everyone. The book takes you into my awakening, and more how At first, my spiritual path helped me to develop and discover who I was, and then my purpose. And this whole book is very archetypal in that way. I've had to allow my heart to be exposed, and even the gentle kindness, goodness side of who I am, that I have. Sometimes people that are of that nature find it really hard to live in the world that's out there right now.
Yes.
And to hold a vision, and for me to do it within rock and roll as well, that was interesting. Because there was a time that, poor David, she's a vegetarian now, and she works with crystals and she meditates. And she doesn't go out to the bars drinking anymore. She drinks that fizzy, sparkling water. It's like, oh, my God. The different phases of daring to hold a vision of what I feel is the truth, that every person's heart is pure.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for being so open and honest with us today. And it's, all I know from my life experiences too is that sometimes, as beautiful as love is, it can be very hurtful, and it can put us at the same time on a whole new path, and that path is a beautiful one. And it looks like that's exactly what happened with you. And for that, we're grateful that you're sharing your story with us today. Mm-hmm. So as you talk about, you've talked a little bit about staying positive, about not holding on to anger. Anger is a big thing in today's world, and we see it all around us. How would you, how do you think one goes about releasing anger, though? What would you recommend with that?
I think one of the first things is to realize that we are creators of our life, and our thoughts and our emotions and our actions attract. We magnetize, and we can create a different world. And it does start with that. I had a special experience with Kubler-Ross and discovered a certain aspect about anger. And I had cut it out. I thought, no way, I'm not having this, because my life was surrounded by a lot of people with anger, and I'm as a child as well. And I said, no, it doesn't have a place in my life. The angelic realm, yes, we'll do that. But then I met Gerhard Adler, and he was helping me with the shadow and how to release the shadow so that more light can come in. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Kubler-Ross was talking about the certain aspects of anger, and it's actually a defense mechanism first. Every emotion has a high and a low aspect of it. And anger's high virtue is that it is a warning and a protection sign. And I didn't have that. People could just walk over me. They'd walk into my aura and I would just give it all. Please step on me. It's all right.
Oh, sure. Right. Mm-hmm.
So that started to change that. And as time went on, it's destructive. It is so destructive. And I value myself more than ever. And the more that I go towards, in this phase of my life, towards Christianity and the true essence of Christ, it's just, you let go of those things. But there have been many passages which I share of how I would get to that point.
Mm-hmm. It's a process.
Yeah.
It's a process.
It's a journey. And I just say to people, believe in yourself and go for the highest, because that's where true joy of living lies.
And so what, you also mentioned soul purpose. Mm-hmm. So what would you say your soul's purpose is in this lifetime? And because I talk to a lot of people, too, that believe there's something greater than what they're experiencing in their current life. and they're trying to find out what that is. Why am I here? What is my purpose? So do you have any suggestions on how to best go about finding what your soul's purpose is, how you did it, and what you believe your soul purpose is?
Do we have time for that?
Yes, we do. We've got a couple of minutes before we go to break.
All right. Again, it's coming to the realization that there's something beyond the 9 to 5 existence, and that the 9 to 5 existence can become a tool of your journey. And for me, it was I had experiences on my journey so that suddenly I'm really sick, and I had to discover proper nutrition and homeopathy and how not to take certain recreational drugs and abuse myself and go to sleep earlier. And that all started to happen. And then I was graced to meet somebody that helped me with the emotional level and the mental plane and then the spiritual thing. It's just my journey came. I was given these tools little by little. It's ask for help, know that there is, and then you want to be of service, and then you find where in service you will be for goodness and kindness, and that will lead you. Little by little, these things start. Everybody loves to be happy and joyful and fulfilled, but we have to do our part.
That's right. We have to be active participants in our own lives, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And sometimes we don't always have all the answers right now when we want them. Sometimes right. And they come to us in ways that are unexpected, and the answers are different than what we thought, and we don't know when everything's going to unfold. But very interesting, Ginger. We are going to another break. We'll be back in 2 minutes, and we'll come back and we're going to talk a little bit about your soul's purpose.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hey ladies, do you want to have that good hair day feeling all the time? Gentlemen, would you want your special someone to have that glow, letting you know she is feeling completely satisfied? This feeling and that glow can be yours by embracing your sexual power. So join me, Rachel Kenley, award-winning romance author, on the O-Spot. The O-Spot will guide you to that peak with guest interviews, book discussions, and conversations on the thrills of sexual empowerment. Put the zing back in your life. Come up and see me sometime on the O-Spot, live on Hump Day at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today. so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back, inspired listeners, to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim and our special guest today, Ginger Gilmour. So, Ginger, before we went to break, we were talking about soul purpose. Now, you are an artist, a humanitarian, an author, a speaker, a teacher. Talk to us about the birth of the work that the artwork that you're doing and how that ties into what your purpose is in this lifetime.
Okay. After having a few pregnancies, I discovered a method called Alexander Principle, which has something to do with aligning your posture so that the energy flows through your body. And I was at one of my sessions with her, and there was a book sitting on her table, The Chasm of Fire by Irina Tweedy. It just sort of spoke to me. I was still starting to believe that there's this guiding principle in all kinds of little things, you know. So I said to her, "Who is this person?" And she said, "It's Irina Tweedy. I go to her meditations on Wednesdays in Willesden." I said, "Oh, can I come?" I said, no, you have to get there on your own. Well, I thought, okay, and discovered later this was one of the spiritual and processes of finding your teacher or your teacher finding you. So I get up the courage, because I'm a very shy person, particularly then, and I come to this house, and she opens the door. I hadn't even knocked or rang the bell. And she said, "I've been waiting for you." She's this majestic elder with silver gray hair. And after a while of going to see her, I brought her this sort of book that I was creating and illustrating. And she said, "You have to go see Cecil Collins." And I said, "Who's that?" And he says, I've known 3 masters in my lifetime, and he's one. And you need to go see him. And between us, there won't be much left of you but rice paper. I was a bit cocky, and I said, well, at least it's edible. But I went to the City Lit and put in my application, and I got refused. And I told her. And apparently she sent Miriam Friedman, who's one of my best friends now, to Cecil and said, "I really need this woman to be one of your students." So she pulled strings, and I was with him for 15 years. And what he did, he helped you to open up the truth of sight, not all the pictures of what you think life is, that we are very good, all the masks and everything. And there was one day I came in and I was bouncing in with my American joy, and he ducks. And he always sat in a chair in the back of the classroom. And he said, "One day, Ginger, you're going to put a real smile on that face." And I went, "Oh, okay." And what he did, he wanted us to touch the clear perception through the drawing. And I have taught this to other people and contemplating whether I should pick it up again, because it is so good for opening up your creativity, but the true creativity, not fantasy, but imagination. So that whenever I go in, after many years with him, when I start, because I know that I have this energy that is to be shared for humanity, so we don't forget there's beauty in the world, that there is other dimensions than this physical body and our mobile phone, and that there's something special of our in our feelings and our thoughts, and they all meet. And then there's your soul, that is the bridge to the God inspiration. And you need to get those different levels balanced in some way, the physical, the emotional, and the mental, so that they all become, your personality becomes a tool, so they listen to the soul, your soul directive that's coming from God, those messages that are coming down and saying, this is how you serve me. This is how you bring goodness and prosperity and kindness for all of creatures or whoever you meet, whether it's a flower, a tree, the dogs, the cows, your fellow man. And we are supposed to be caretakers, not destroyers and usurpers and users. And every person has a special way of finding their service. And when they open that bridge, God can work with you, can direct you, can give to you. And I'm really glad that I feel like I'm a beginner, really. You know, the book, it's like I had to work in secret for a long time because people didn't accept that. And now they're desperate. They really want something. They're looking for something, and it's inside. Every person has a divine spark. Every person has a mission of how to be good. There was a time I thought, okay, when I walk down the street, I'm going to say thank you to the street sweeper and tell. There was one day that they were sweeping the leaves, and it was so beautiful. And I said, that is so beautiful. We can do acts of kindness to start it. You know, it's there's so many things that you can do. And I've certainly had my process, and that's all in the book. And hopefully that inspires people to find theirs, because it isn't just my story. It's about, and my art isn't my art. It's art for you. It's so that you discover I explain it in there, the different supposed techniques that open up you as you observe my artwork to your creativity. And then you can live, you can touch beauty.
It really is a beautiful message that you are sharing, Ginger, to help people see the beauty that surrounds them, and to be able to see the beauty in somebody sweeping the leaves. You know, there's beauty all around us, but so many times we just bypass it. We don't recognize it. And when you do, I feel like life just changes. It changes in every way. And I really am appreciative of that kindness that you're sharing, and showing people how to experience life differently. I want to make sure that we get your contact information out. We have posted it on social media, but for anybody who's available or who's interested, in purchasing the book Memoirs, The Bright Side of the Moon, you can do so at angelscript.com. And you can also learn more about Ginger's art at gingerart.net. So I want to make sure, because we're approaching the end of the show, and I want our listeners to be able to find you and to learn more about the work that you're doing. Mark,
I'm on Facebook as well.
And you're on Facebook. Wonderful. That's always a good platform. So, you're doing a lot of great humanitarian work out there as well. I know you. Are you still a practicing healer also?
I was moved to bring the healing energy into my artwork. I was advised to do that because there are many wonderful people doing hands-on, and I learned an enormous amount of how to bring that energy in into my hands. And I discovered that I have to do the artwork and then help people through my art to do that. I've done installations for the Red Cross and for the Olympics and many things, for Bernardo's, and just loads of stuff. It's all my CVs in there. So that it's helping humanity is mainly right now through my art.
Wonderful.
But it's still there, you know.
Well, and Ginger, I was just, thank you for sharing your beautiful journey and story with us. I was thinking of the saying that talks about there will come a time when you believe everything is finished, and that really is just the beginning. And for our inspired listeners, I thought it'd be a great way to finish out the show with you, Ginger, is actually read a quick section out of your book when you're searching for humility in 1983, the same year that you met Miss Tweedy, beautiful lady, seeing her picture here. But I just wanted to, for the inspired listeners, as you're going through your own soul adventure and your own journey, from Ginger, this is from her book, chapter 46. My path was leading me more into conscious awareness of my humanity. I was becoming aware that the ripples that I created either separated me from the world or joined me together in community, spirit, with everyone upon the earth. It was important to feel the gentle breeze of my thoughts as I walked down the street, sending a smile to passersby, a smile not in need of acceptance, but from a desire to give because everyone seemed so beautiful. Life was hugging me each day, and I wanted to share it. And what a beautiful message, what a beautiful book, Ginger. Thank you so much for being our special guest.
Yes,
and again,
thank you.
Smiles and hugs and giving back. And with that is the end of our show, unfortunately. But thank you so much, Ginger. Next week, we'll be back on Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, with special guest Nancy Byrne talking about choices and tapping into the soul. So until then, be kind, be caring, be compassionate. Namaste.